Hello participants, I, Dr. Neha Pandey from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Banaras Hindu University, brings to you this very interesting, simple and foundational course on effective communication skills for personal and professional development. This course will take care of your communication needs at your personal and professional development and also will help you to finesse these attributes so that you come out as a proficient learner and communicator in a long run. Today we are going to begin with the first module, that is Basics of Communication, Concept, Process and Models. And the first lecture which I will be giving today is focused on understanding communication, meaning and concept. So once again, I welcome you all with the hope that this course is going to benefit you in a number of ways. So, dear participants, the topics which we will be covering in today's lecture will focus mainly on understanding communication, and I will be giving a basic introduction to make you understand the concept and meaning underlying this very simple but in a way complex process of communication. Then we will be looking into few definitions of communication given by important personalities, which will again make you understand the complexity and the number of elements which are involved in the communication process. Then we will see what is the importance of communication in our day-to-day lives, both in the personal as well as in the professional front. We will be looking after the needs, why one needs to communicate, what are some of the skills which are required for communication, the purpose of communication, and then some activity questions in the end. So let us begin. So when we talk about communication, let us try to understand it is something like air. Air which is invisible, but it is all around us. It is something inevitable. We cannot imagine our survival without air. Similarly, without communication, we cannot survive. Meaningful communication is a very important task. Just like our body filters oxygen from the air, in the similar way, we filter out meaningful communication which is directed towards us. And this is how communication is something which is all around us. Also, we can compare communication with our desktop icons. What is the purpose of those icons? It helps us to organize your task. For example, we keep different folders on our desktop. On some, we share our professional files, we share pictures, we save some documents, we save some videos, and so on. So that at a glance, we are ready to understand which icon we need to click and where we will get our materials. So similarly, communication is tailored. That means automatically we understand the context of communication. For example, if I am giving a lecture to you, what will be the context? If I am in a family gathering, the context will be different. If I am with my family members and in a different kind of setting, the context will be different. So this is how communication is tailored. Next principle focused on communication is that it shapes our personality. Communication refines our personality because when we learn to communicate effectively and efficiently, it is quite visible. We appear to be learned and it makes us very empowered. It inculcates a sense of confidence within ourselves. Next, communication also acts like a capital. It is an asset. Why? Because again, as I said, it is empowering. It makes us self-sufficient in our professional and personal lives. If I know what to communicate, how to do a persuasive communication, how to do an emotional communication, that means I am a confident person and I am making the best use of my communication abilities. Next, when we communicate, people make through what is my perception about a particular issue, like who we are, what is our inclination, what is our thought process. So communication adds to our personality and how people perceive us as a human being. Then again, communication has taught us to behave in individual and group situations, and how we have to behave when we are with different sets of people.
What are the etiquette? What we have to do? What are the do's and don'ts associated with communication?
So communication is the overall process of how we carry ourselves. It is a personality which moves with us, and communication has a major role in it. Again, the next important aspect when you try to understand the concept of communication is looking and describing the impact of our communication. For example, there are different types of communication about which you will be learning in different lectures. Verbal communication has different impact. Written communication is very, very particular and requires action and has a different set of impact. Even medium, Marshall McLuhan has said that medium is the message. That means if we are watching a cinema, it is going to create a different impact. So communication, when inclined with the medium, give another kind of impact, and we are going to cover all these things in detail in this course. So I hope some understanding about communication is clear to you. Also, context is very important in any communication, because any communication does not happen in vacuum. We communicate in a context. If you are going for a job interview, you know how to dress, you know how to present yourself, you know what you have to speak, how you have to greet others, how you have to answer questions. So the context is also something which outlines and defines the boundaries of your communication. Let us see something more about communication.
Many a times people are not able to differentiate between talking and communication.
Talking is just one part of communication. Talking occurs when we simply open our mouths and speak. Communication involves contemplating what we want to express before speaking, structuring our thoughts for others to understand and respond to it in a meaningful way. So friends, you can understand that communication is not very simple. It is a very, very complicated process, and it starts from the way we try to communicate what we are trying to speak and how we process that communication, taking everything into consideration, from the language, the tone, the process, the context, the target audience, the choice of words, so on and so forth. Then, very important aspect is that communication is influenced by our culture. There are culture-specific jargons and words which define communication, and it is something which is very much influencing communication. Again, communication, we can say that it reflects a way of life. For example, profession-specific communication is there, how we carry ourselves.
So, every profession requires a different set of etiquette related to communication.
So, when you know how to communicate effectively, half of the job is already done, because it takes care of other things by itself. Then, one myth which we have in general is that communication is something which is gifted, and people are born as good communicators. But there is nothing like that. It is just a skill like driving. Like if you learn driving, the more you practice, the more proficient you become in that. So communication is also something which can be learned, and you can improve everyday communication through learning and through ritualistically practicing it in your day-to-day life. Very important aspect again, conflict also occurs because of communication, but then communication is also a conflict resolver. As in the organizational setup, many times there is a conflict because as humans we may have different opinions. So communication helps us to come out with solutions to do away with those conflicts. And of course, communication is a relationship builder, because the more we communicate, the more we understand each other, whether it is our personal life or professional life, and thus it is a building block of our relationships. So, some more interesting topics and concepts related to communication. It is the process of expressing ideas and feelings. So when you have an idea and you want to communicate it to someone, you need to process how we need to communicate. So all those things will come under the umbrella of communication. Transferring of information, you are at the airport, there is some announcement regarding the change of gate of your flight or rescheduling. So all these kinds of information also happens through communication. Then it is a two-way process that is very, very important. It is a process in which two or more people are involved and they are constantly actively participating. For example, in this lecture, even if I am speaking, you are actively listening to it and you are assimilating to what I am saying. So this is how communication takes place. Communication is always has an objective. It has some purpose, whether you want to persuade, you want to inform something to your audience, you want to have a marketing campaign. So communication doesn't take place in vacuum. It is always meaningful and it is always purposeful. And in management, in our all professional setups, communication is the life cycle of any organization. Organizations work because of communication and because of effective communication. Communication originated from the Latin word communis, which means common. That suggests that there must be a common understanding of the message between the source and the receiver. That means simple sending of the message is not communication. Communication process is complete only when the receiver also generates a similar kind of understanding with which you intended to send the message. Here you can see, like sender, the message is A, and with receiver, if the message is again A, that means in its entirety it is same, then only the communication process has taken place fully. So communication is an interaction within a social context. Like if I am saying something here right now, I am talking about communication. I am giving all those examples with which you can relate. I am speaking in a language which you can understand. So all these are contextual variables, which is very, very necessary for communication to take place in a meaningful manner. Communication is the process of creating meaning. Meaning generation and creation is also an important ingredient of communication process. Now students, let us look after some of the definitions which have been given by communication scholars, and why these definitions are important, because it will help you understand what are the different variables involved in the communication process. So let's take a look. Newman and Summer has defined communication as an exchange of facts, ideas, opinions, or emotions by two or more people. So that means we are exchanging facts, that is any information. We are exchanging ideas, that is germination of any thought process, any creativity. We are exchanging opinions, what we think about, and also how we feel, that is emotions. So through communication, there can be a healthy exchange of facts, ideas, opinions, or emotions during the process. Alan Louis has defined communication as the sum total of all things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. It involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. So very interesting definition. It talks about the systematic and continuous nature of communication, that communication happens in a loop and it is a continuous process in which the sender and the receiver are actively engaged and active all the time. Then Katz and Kahn has described communication as the exchange of information and the transmission of meaning. It is the very essence of a social system of an organization. That means in an organization or in any social system, communication has a very pivotal role to play, as it helps us to identify our roles and responsibilities and everything associated with our existence. Few more definitions. Davis has said that communication is a process of passing information and understanding from one another. He also believes that the only way that management can be achieved in an organization is through the process of communication. So he is more inclined towards the organization and communication role into that. So for understanding of tasks and day-to-day responsibilities, for passing of information, for all these stuff, organizational communication is very, very important. Next, Julia Woods in 2004 has said that communication is a systemic process in which individuals interact with and through symbols to create and interpret meanings. The most important term in this definition is systemic, which means that communication works as a cohesive, as a total system and not just as parts. So we need to take care of every part in order to make the communication process effective and efficient. One more thing, that communication is power. So when we need to communicate, when we learn to communicate, when we are master of communication, then it simply adds power to our personality. It is a necessity, friends. We cannot do away without communication because we are social beings. For our survival, for our existence, for everything we need to communicate. It is something which makes us human. Why we are human beings? Just because we can communicate. And communication is the building block of all the developments which you are seeing, whether it is from the printing press or AI, chat, GPT, whatever it is. So communication is a problem-solving entity which has led to the development of human race. Communication is magnetic. We are automatically attracted towards those who have a magnetic communication skill, and of course it is magical. So communication, most important thing, it is apart from being a process, it is a skill, something which we can always learn, which we can always improvise upon. We can also observe how others are speaking and we can take lessons from that. We should aim for becoming a good communicator. We should always delve to improvise the version of ours which is yesterday and what we are today. So that can only happen through effective communication skills, and it is practice driven. And I think in today's world, it should be our mission to be effective communicators. Now let us come to another interesting area within this, that is importance of effective communication. So,
As already explained, it helps in an exchange of shared meaning.
So it helps in the generation of a shared meaning, which is very, very important from communication perspective and also for whatever task we are doing. By shared meaning, for example, if I try to make you understand the meaning of communication and I have given the reference of air, so I hope that you understand it in the same way in which I have made you understand that. So this is what I mean when I take this part, that is the shared meaning part of communication. Of course, it helps us in building strong relationship, whether it is at personal front, professional front. So that is why effective communication is very, very necessary. We should learn how to speak, how to communicate with our supervisor, with our juniors, with our colleagues, with our family members, with our friends, with small children, everyone, so that there is a stronger relationship which builds up day by day. I have already explained this part. Conflict can be caused and also can be resolved by communication. So it is our task to see how to avoid communication related any misunderstanding. So that can also happen only if we are effectively practicing the art and skill of communication. Next, goal and objectives. We need to achieve certain goals and objectives, short-term goals or long-term objectives in both our personal and professional life. In order to achieve those also, we need to effectively communicate. So as I said, it is a kind of bread and butter of our lives. Communication is something which is the engine, which gives us the fuel to move forward and also upward. It helps us in our personal growth. It helps to groom our personality. It helps us to show who we are. It helps us to show our learning skills, how much we know about a topic, how much we know about a particular issue. So it helps in personal growth and also in professional growth. Through communication also we attain knowledge, and knowledge is something which adds to our personality. It helps in our decision making skills. Decision making is a very important skill which takes place only when we are well informed. We know the facts, we know the situation, we know what has to be done, how it will benefit the larger society. So for those to make decision efficiently also, we need to be well informed, and we need to rely on our communication skill, which is again a mix of a large number of variables. We all come across through some crisis in our life, whether it is a personal crisis, like the loss of a special someone. So in that time also, we need to communicate, we need to be emotionally stable. In our professional life also, there are so many crises happening at organizational level, at national level. Corona came a few years back, and then we were all taken aback. Then how communication helped us to gain information about the thing, and then how it helped us to resolve the thing. So crisis communication is also very, very important when we look about the different role of communication and how important it is in our day-to-day lives. So coming to a related topic, need. So we all need to have this belongingness within ourselves. We need to connect with people, and what is a better way to connect than communicate with them, talk to them, listen to them. So all these helps us in connecting with people, and it also satisfies our sense of belongingness. We all want to be heard. When we are sad, we want somebody to be by our side. When we are happy, we want somebody to share our success. In each and every stage of our life, for different things, for simple to complicated things, we need people. We need people who can hear us and understand what we are going through in our lives. So communication is something which also serves the sacrosanct purpose of helping others by making them listen to you and you being heard by others. We all need appreciation. We all are human beings. So communication, through communication also, we get that attribute. We are appreciated. People congratulate. So we feel happy about it. So all these things can be done through communication. Then to keep in touch with others, whether through social media is something which has taken us in a huge way. So we are keeping in touch with people whom we met, say, in our school time, in our college time. So it is a basic need. Only the mediums are changing, and communication is providing us that platform of keeping in touch with those who we want to keep in touch with. And similarly, connect with others again in a professional front. We have certain ideas which needs to be germinated, which needs to be creatively taken into consideration and given a whole kind of thing. So in that, we need to connect with others. In personal life also, we have to connect with others. So all these are interrelated concepts, but everything is important, and all of these makes the process of communication our need, our importance, and it has certain purpose also. Then socialization, being social animals, we need to socialize, and without communication, we cannot socialize. And even the absence of communication gives you a hint that, okay, we are not normal today. There is something going in our mind. So communication have a very, very huge impact in our lives, in our social system, and it is a very important variable which helps us to which helps us in making us a social human being. To get things done, again, we need to give instructions. If we want something, we need to ask for it. So for all these mundane activities also, we need to communicate. Make their intentions and feelings known. What we are feeling, what exactly we want to do. Until and unless we will communicate that to our audience, whether it is my students at the university, whether they are my family members or some other social groups. So communicating is the first step in developing or achieving any objectives. So that is also very, very important. Then we communicate with specific purpose in mind. So all those purposes has to be met. So that is the need of communication. We need to gratify our certain needs, whether they are educational needs, professional needs, emotional needs, intellectual needs. So communication helps us in doing all that. So communication helps us build relationships by allowing us to share our experiences and needs and helps us connect to others. It is the essence of life, allowing us to express, pass on information and share thoughts. We all need to communicate. That is the beauty of communication, that we all need to be embraced by the communication for our day-to-day survival. Also, you must have observed that communication is all around us. From the moment we wake and switch on the radio, read the newspaper, pass the advertising boards on way to work, and listen to the train announcements or whatever it is. So, we are bombarded with communication messages throughout, but then we pick and choose and we attend to only those communication that are directed towards us. During our working day, communication enables tasks to be completed diligently and ultimately makes us and our company more professional. In business, communication skills are highly valued. Whatever profession you are there, communication is something which is of paramount importance to you.
Leaders with ineffective communication skills can often be the root cause of productivity related issues.
And they can be easily identified. Therefore, we need to work on effective communication.
And if we are not able to communicate in an effective manner, then it will lead to many blunders and problems both in our professional as well as social life.
We have talked about communication. So, what is communication exactly built up of? What are those skills which make this process so interesting and also so appealing? So, speaking is one part of communication. So, it is a skill, and in our subsequent lectures, we will be discussing about these topics at great length. We will be discussing with you some of these things in greater detail in the subsequent units. So again, listening is again a very crucial element of communication. It is half the process of communication, because until and unless you listen, you pay attention to it, the communication process, the meaning making thing cannot be done in a proper manner. Concentration. So we need to focus. That is also another important skill of communication. Assimilation. Whatever we are learning, whatever we are hearing, how much at the end of the day we are able to assimilate, how much we are there to keep in the storage of our brain. That is very, very important. And communication teaches us the skills of assimilation also. Organization. After assimilation, how well we are able to organize our thoughts. So that is also a very integral part of communication. Presentation. Then how we are able to present those things which we have already listened, after giving concentration to it, after proper assimilation and organization. So how in the end we are able to present that. That is something which makes meaning out of our total communication process. Visualization. Suppose we are reading a book and we are reading a story. So how are we able to visualize the characters, the settings, the context? That is also something which communication teaches, and it all happens with practice. Body language is very, very important in communication. How you are sitting, how you are looking at others, what is the movement of your hands, how you are nodding. All these makes communication, or it can break communication also. So body language is very, very important. Verbal and non-verbal communication, your speaking skills, the way you are speaking, the way you are writing, and the cues you are giving in a non-verbal fashion, all these adds to the communication aspect. Reading and writing, again, very important part in our professional life. In whatever profession we are, we have to read, we have to write, we have to be a continuous learner. And reading and writing are two important variables which increases our communication skills in a number of ways. And it happens eventually without us being understanding that it is giving benefits to us. Cultural awareness. This is again something which communication teaches, and to know the culture is also very, very important if we need to talk about our communication skill, because we cannot talk about something to people without understanding their culture. So culture plays an important role in communication, and of course context, which is very closely related to culture, but it takes care of all the settings in which the human beings are functioning. So these are some of the attributes or some of the variables associated with communication skill, and we will be learning these in subsequent lectures. So coming to the final part of this lecture, the purpose of communication, it is required for our academic success. No matter how good we are, we have to take efforts to improvise our communication, whether we are going for GD, we are going for personal interview, we need to learn communication, and in a short way, it is going to increase your academic success quotient. Confidence builder, if I know about something, I am confident from within, then it is reflected in my personality. So communication boosts our confidence in a number of ways. Of course, it grooms our personality, how we carry ourselves,
how we speak, what are our etiquette, how we approach or consider an issue, how we speak in public, how we speak in different contexts.
So these are things which are observed by others. So in a way, communication grooms our personality in a big way.
Then authenticity.
Communication gives authenticity. Suppose you know about a particular issue. For example, the Russian-Ukraine war which is going on. So when you speak with facts and figures, people will look onto you with authenticity. You are somebody whom they will believe, because the content itself is something which adds to your communication. Next, inner satisfaction. Of course, if we are communicating with confidence, if we are communicating efficiently and effectively, it gives us an inner satisfaction that, okay, I have done my job well. This was my task for today and I have done it in a proper manner. If I have to make a presentation about marketing, I have done it in a proper manner. Whatever points I have thought of, I have delivered. So that will give you an inner satisfaction and it will further improvise your working skill. Organizational success, it is very important for individual success also, group success also, and organizational success also. And it helps us to identify who we are, what are our job roles, and therefore it gives us a purpose in life. Communication gives us a purpose in life by making us understand what we are here for. And it takes care of our mental health, it takes care of our emotional status, because communication is something which makes us feel good about ourselves if done in a proper, healthy manner with the people whom we love to interact with. And in today's world, digital communication is happening in a big way. AI and all those things, we have already discussed about it. So digital communication is also there, and there are pros and cons of any new invention which comes. But then it depends on us how we make the optimum and best use of the technology and the latest developments in the area of communication. So with this, I finish today's lecture, and let me take you to a very interesting activity, and I hope every one of you do it for gaining a deeper understanding of how you are communicating. So students, you have to make a list of all the apps which you use for communication, say on a day-to-day basis. Then just mention what is the purpose of using those apps. Suppose you are using different apps. There must be a different purpose which is assigned with each of these apps. So just mention that, think about it. Then for how long you are using, how long you are engaged in the process of communication through those apps, and also frequency of logging in a day. Just make a note of it. And another important thing, think about this. It is not directly related to what we have talked, but it will give you new vistas of understanding communication. Suppose you are caught in an unknown island. How will you try to establish contact and communicate your problem with the natives there who speak an entirely incomprehensible, that is, a different language? So what will you do? How will you communicate? Is language the only means of communication? So these are some of the references and additional reading materials which you can go through. So with this, I end today's lecture, and I hope this introductory lecture you all have enjoyed with me, and I hope you will continue this course with more interesting aspects of communication, which will be coming up in each of the lectures. I thank you all for joining this course. Thank you from Dr. Neha Pandey.